Hello, this video is about analyzing the threat of new entrants. The competitive environment of an industry includes rivalry among competitors, the threat from new entrants, the bargaining power of customers, the bargaining power of suppliers, and available substitutes. This video looks at the threat from new entrants. When analyzing the threat from new entrants, we're really looking at potential new rivals. Fewer rivals is a good opportunity in business. However, the threat that a new competitor will show up and become an additional rival is a threat. When analyzing the threat from new entrants, we need to look at the barriers to entry. Companies that already compete within the industry are represented by the knights who are living in the castle. Now, when the barrier is low, potential new entrants find it easy to invade the castle. So, when it's easy for new entrants to enter the industry, rivalry increases. This is a threat to current players in the industry. Now, when the barriers to entry are high, it becomes very difficult for new entrants to enter and invade the castle. The threat of new entrants is therefore low, and the rivalry that would exist within the industry would remain lower. Some of the barriers to entry include low growth or low profitability of the industry, economies of scale, customer switching costs, brand loyalty, and the existence of government regulations. So low growth or low profitability. When the industry is growing rapidly, it's more profitable. This is an industry that's more attractive to newcomers. So it's sort of like a fun party. More people are likely to come. When the industry is on the decline, profitability is lower. It's less attractive. So it's sort of like a boring lecture at school. Nobody really wants to be there. So when newcomers are thinking about their options of where to make an investment, which industry to enter, they're more likely to enter an industry that's highly profitable than an industry that's on the decline. Economies of scale. Here's how economies of scale works. If a new video game producer tried to enter the market, they'd be affected by economies of scale. The Robot Kicker game by New Entry Games is interested in introducing their new Robot Kicker video game. Here's how economies of scale would affect New Entry Games. So let's suppose it costs $10 million to produce a video game. No matter how many games they sell, it costs $10 million. That's a fixed cost. If New Entry Games manages to sell 100,000 copies of Robot Kicker, their cost per game will be $100 per game. So New Entry Games would have to charge greater than $100 for each version of Robot Kicker in order to earn any kind of profit. Now, when Microsoft comes out with a version of Halo, there would still be the fixed cost of $10 million to produce the game. Because Xbox is popular, it's a system that's already owned by many, many people. It's well known, and Xbox already has loyal customers. It's possible that they may sell 10 million copies of Halo. So if it costs $10 million to produce Halo, and if Xbox can sell 10 million copies of the game, the cost per unit is $1 per game. Therefore, when this company sells each copy of the game for $70, they're earning an extremely high profit. So here's where economies of scale can become a barrier to a new entrant. If the Xbox game costs $70 and if Robot Kicker costs $120, it's not very likely that too many people would want to buy Robot Kicker. So there's a very large disadvantage to being a small player in this industry because fixed costs are so high. So new entrants who have a small amount of customers to start with have to spread higher fixed costs over a lower volume. So it creates a much higher unit cost for new entrants. So it's harder for them to compete and to become established in this industry. Customer switching costs. So there are people who already own Xbox and who already own a Wii and who already own a PlayStation. All the games that are designed to work on the Xbox, the Wii, and the PlayStation only work on those devices. So if you own an Xbox, you probably already have hundreds of dollars in games that will only play on the Xbox. If a new entrant device becomes available, even if it's a little bit better and even if the price might be a little bit lower, there's a big disadvantage to switching. All the games that you already own for the Xbox will not play on the new entrant machine, so they'd have to be replaced. The additional cost to replace those games is the switching cost. So even if a competing machine does show up that's new to the market, it would be very hard for them to attract customers because customers have already invested in other technologies. Brand loyalty. We all have our favorite brands, and brand loyalty exists where we'll pass by an available brand in favor of the brand that we're loyal to. This is especially true for a new entrant. A new product is introduced. Customers within the market already have their favorite brands and won't even give a new entrant an opportunity. So this creates a large disadvantage for a new entrant in entering an industry. Government restrictions. Some industries have a lot of rules and regulations imposed by government, and some industries have few. So for example, if you wanted to open up an art shop, there would be very few regulations that would affect whether or not you wanted to enter that industry and how hard or easy it would be to conduct business within that industry. Broadcasting, on the other hand, is highly regulated by government. So there are many, many regulations that not only make it difficult to conduct business, that actually prevent companies from even opening and competing within certain countries. So back to our story about the knights. If the profit potential of the industry is low or the industry is declining, that contributes to a slightly higher barrier. Potential new entrants are less interested in joining and competing within the industry. If economies of scale creates a large advantage for incumbents within the industry, the disadvantage that would exist would potentially scare new entrants away. If the switching costs for current customers to switch and try a new brand are high, it's likely that they won't give the new brand a try, and so that creates a larger barrier for the new entrants to compete within the industry. If current customers are loyal to the brands that already exist, new entrants have a harder time competing. And finally, if there are a lot of regulations that make it difficult for a new company to enter the industry, it adds to the barrier and makes it even harder for new entrants to join an industry and compete.